Hello and welcome to the BA News Show, your weekly news show every Friday at 5 p.m. with your hosts. Me, I'm Rich, and my good friend and gaming padre, Tabs.
Yeah! Sorry, mate.
Hilarious.
Yes. Do something new this week. Hi, everybody.
The big news to start this week off is we are not featuring Cyberpunk 2077. Big breaking news straight off the bat. There isn't any Cyberpunk news. You'll be pleased to hear. Some interesting bits to get through. I think it's been an interesting week in the news. Lots to look forward to down the line, I think, with some of the bits in the everything else at the end of the show. But before we dive into that, we'll start this week, as we always do, talking about what I've been playing this week. And I don't think it will come as that much of a surprise when Tabs tells us what he's been playing this week.
Yep, Demon Souls BArcadians. So we're continuing our mission through the game. And in fact, we've flipped over into New Game Plus now.
We have indeed.
So we talked last week about our revelation that we can kind of invade each other's worlds and support each other and play co-op, essentially. And that has really helped us push on massively, in addition to my Firestorm spell acquisition, which is totally overpowered in this game. If you've played it, you'll know. But yeah, so it kind of took us by surprise, I think. I felt like there was still so much to do, but we defeated the bosses, we moved it on, and here we are. So yeah, we're playing on New Game Plus. There's a few things we want to finish off we didn't get to do the first time around, and still enjoying it, still loving that kind of progression, character building. But yeah, it feels like, I don't know about for you, Rich, that maybe, I'm not sure if we'll get all the way through the New Game Plus, because we've talked about potentially playing Control Ultimate Edition, which is coming as a freebie to PlayStation Plus soon, which is in the news at some point today. But no, I've really enjoyed it. I'd be happy to give it like a 9 out of 10, mate, 8 or 9 out of 10 in terms of an experience, and obviously all the better because we got to play it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, it goes without saying that I've also been playing it. Really enjoying it. Finally sort of coming to my own on it, and really enjoying actually being able to play the game a bit better. I've struggled because I've gone mainly melee build. I do have some magic on it, and that's meant I have to get up close and personal with a lot of the enemies, and that means taking a lot of damage and often sustaining, kills, basically. I die a lot. But
just give us a snippet of your general mood on World 2, was it, Rich, the other day, which we both detest, but I think I described you as having a sense of humour malfunction.
Yeah, I think it's actually World 5. I think, Tabs. The depraved chasm. I think it's World 5. World 2's a mine area, I think.
Oh, okay. Maybe then, maybe.
But yeah, it's just a horrible area. We've hated it the whole way through. It's, there's areas where you can fall down and die instantly. And yeah, there's these big trolls and they devastate me on health. So I really struggle with them and I have to get right close to them to be able to kill them. So that's a nightmare for me. And just sometimes you just feel so just done with it for a bit. But yeah, last night we went back on and we really sorted it. So it was good. Go on, Tabs.
Yeah, no, we had friend of the channel, Rye, observing the playthrough on this depraved chasm level. And Rich was in a swamp getting poisoned, getting smashed about by trolls. Suffice to say, it was not the best sell of Demon Souls as a concept, as a game. I think Rye said something along the lines of, die, struggle more, die again, struggle some more, get quite a bit further, die again, go right back to the beginning.
Never play again was his ending, I think, on that. So that was quite fun. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you haven't played it and you've got a PS5, which is probably a few and far between, but if you have, definitely go and play it because it is really enjoyable. I have to say, really enjoyable. But yeah, in terms of going on to stuff, I've got so many games on the go. I need to finish Hollow Knight. I want to get back onto Spider-Man. We spoke about Control,
Hades.
So yeah, Hades potentially no, not happening. Potentially that. So anyway, enough rabbiting on. Let's get into the news. So we're going to start this week with Xbox Live Gold Hike lacks the Midas touch, and this little article comes from T3. This past weekend, Microsoft had a mini melodrama on its hands when it unceremoniously announced that it will be hiking up the price of its Xbox Live Gold subscription in an effort to herd customers towards its new Xbox Game Pass service. The move backfired spectacularly, but to its credit, Xbox pivoted almost immediately, reverting the increase and apologising to the community for missing the mark. In an effort to quell the tempers, the gaming giant dropped a nugget for Xbox players it had presumably been saving, but pulled the trigger on to claw back as much goodwill as possible. Free-to-play games will no longer require an Xbox Live Gold membership to enjoy. They will actually be free to play. The Xbox list of free-to-play Xbox titles is pretty exclusive, so for those of you who have an Xbox Series X, Xbox One or Xbox 360, you'll get access to a sizable library of titles. So, I saw this sort of transpire over the weekend and thought it's all just a bit unnecessary. So you announce a price hike, and then because of basically backlash and people are like, I don't want that, or I don't want to pay more, you go, oh, actually, we didn't mean that. Well, let's just leave it as it is. And then to smooth it, it just seemed like basically a load of nonsense that Microsoft created for themselves for no reason. Like, I don't know, what did you make of this, Tabs?
No, exactly the same. They really shot themselves in the foot with this, because it was the dissonance, wasn't it? We know Microsoft and Phil Spencer as their figurehead spokesperson has courted the image of being consumer friendly, the kind of the jolly cordial friend of every gamer and every competitor as well. They often talk about cross-platform play and how they want to make things accessible for people of low income. So of course you caught that image, and then you suddenly make a business decision which looks, as it's spelled in this article from T3, like they're trying to herd consumers into actually signing up to their ultimate subscription service. It just it came off very raw to gamers everywhere. And credit to them, you have to say that on the backlash that we saw as soon as it happened, they made sure they sorted it out. And in fact, they've actually not just returned things to what they were, but they're giving everybody access to these free-to-play titles to boot. Go on.
The one thing I was going to add, and it's sort of related, but a little bit of a segue, I feel like there's a lot of this going on in the games industry at the minute. Missteps, companies deciding to do one thing and it colossally backfiring. And we've seen it a lot through, we've seen it with Cyberpunk, now we've seen it with Xbox. And these companies, that it's like their marketing and finance department make one decision, but then it doesn't sit well with the wider audience. And then, we've messed that one up. We need to backtrack. We'll sort it. Or let's go back to as we were. Let's smoothen the deal with this. I just feel like there's an inherent problem more widely with things like this at the moment in the games industry.
Yeah, they're big old beasts, aren't they, these companies? And they're filled, as you point out, with these little information silos that make up each department. And they probably don't always talk to each other that effectively. So it could just be a case of communication breakdown, which leads to this. You would have thought if this was put under Phil Spencer's nose, did he just have a day off or something? Because if Phil Spencer would have seen this on his desk, surely he'd be like, no way, this is not going to go down well. So it'd be really interesting to know what the background story is on it, but of course we unlikely never will.
Oh yeah, they obviously couldn't get him on Zoom that day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a good point, mate. In this, remote environment where we're all having to do our best remotely, I think that affects communication even more, doesn't it? As we've seen. So, hazard of the times, I suppose.
Absolutely. Move us on, Tabs.
So, topic number 2 today, we've got the WallStreetBets Crisis. So this comes courtesy of the Financial Times. Bit of a different type of subject matter in this, so we'll do our best to try and illustrate it for everybody, because it's not just about games, this one. It's about financial markets. But here we go. For most Americans, GameStop is a struggling bricks and mortar video game retailer. For investors, the company has become the epicenter of a war between hedge fund pros and so-called Reddit bros. Their concerted buying has pushed the stock up 1,700% since the start of the year, forcing short seller Melvin Capital to seek a cash injection from allies. It would be tempting to dismiss the Reddit bros, some of them alt-right supporters, as dumb money, and their frenzied buying as a Ponzi scheme. Instead, this is a cautionary tale of how social media can be co-opted to attack the financial establishment. Reddit may be changing Wall Street in the way Twitter and Facebook changed politics. So just to help better illustrate this, what essentially this concept of short selling, I found something on Twitter, actually. It was a user going by the handle Mr. V. And this is what he said. Imagine if, in Donkey Kong 64, instead of stealing the banana horde, King K. Rool signed a legally binding contract to buy 101 bananas. He then uses that legally binding guarantee to sell the bananas he'll eventually own to get enough money to afford building K. Rool Island. However, Cranky Kong realizes what King K. Rool is about to do, so instead he actually buys the bananas himself at a much higher price. Dare I say, at the price of gold. King K. Rool is still legally bound to buy these 101 gold bananas, despite how high Cranky drove the price up. So the essence is there's this technique, or not technique, device where, you know, these big kind of Wall Street bods can borrow the shares, but with a promise to buy them at a later date. And then, you know, what they're hoping is that because they predict the shares to crash or to reduce in value, you know, they're going to actually make money in the short term by selling them at a higher price than what they'll eventually buy them for, if that makes sense at all. And then what's happened is we've got this group of Reddit bros, as they're described in this article, who are driving up the price of the shares of GameStop by presumably just purchasing them in bulk and, you know, at full value. And essentially that's preventing this so-called crash. So it means that these kind of Wall Street bods who are committed to these contracts are then going to have to stump up to pay this higher share price, making a loss in doing so. So yeah, it's a complex one, but the gist of it is, you know, it's a bit of a Robin Hood scenario that we've got these financial wealthy elite who are arguably, you know, and US senators have come out and said this, I think, or at least wannabe US senators have come out and said that, you know, these big kind of elites have been playing the markets like a casino for a long time, essentially what they're doing with this short selling tactic. And therefore, you know, you've kind of got your Robin Hood, these everymen Reddit bros who are coming in to, you know, stick it to them and basically enforce all these losses by sort of manipulating the market. So it's a complicated one because it's like, who do you side with? Who's in the wrong here? You know, the elite, this everyday man who's kind of sticking it to them. I think there is something to be said that markets, you know, it's good for everybody to have financial market stability, and this is not necessarily helping that. But at the same time, you know, when you get these elites who are essentially playing God and making money off other people, playing, you know, using it as a casino, as has been said about them, well, it's nice kind of a way, isn't it, to see that, you know, almost the underdogs sticking a finger up to them and making them lose millions, which likely won't really affect their lives in any meaningful sense anyway. But what about you, Rich? What do you make of it all?
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think one of the reasons this GameSpot specifically has been chosen, because, you know, it's been widely reported that GameStop is basically on its arse. You know, it's you know, facing closures of stores, potentially collapse altogether. And I'm guessing people are buying the stocks at their current, or borrowing the stocks, as we've just spoke about, in the thought that at some point it's going to collapse, so that then, you know, they're able to then buy them when they have to at the much smaller value that they'll be. So it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, what we don't want, I mean, it's an American company as far as I'm aware, so it doesn't really affect us over here in the UK, but we don't want to see, you know, game selling companies going out of business. And if this is a way of sort of, you know, the Reddit bros, as it's called in this article, of like helping that not happen, then obviously that's really good, you know, and it's nice to see that gamers can, in a meaningful way, affect, you know, a company as valuable in the US as GameStop.
Mate, I don't think it's gonna really affect their, you know, their long-term future. I think GameStop is recognised as being a company that's kind of going down the pan because they've not stayed relevant with, you know, consumer buying habits. You know, they've not really made that big switch to online. So I don't think it will affect them long term. I think what it does definitely point out is, and this is I've not come up with this. This is what's being said generally. The absurdity of financial markets and how they can be manipulated in this way. And I think that's an interesting one. If we'll see any sort of, at the minute, mate, they've actually frozen trades on, I think, GameStop. I'm not sure if there's other short-selling favourite stocks that might have been frozen as well, but which is a bit crappy, really, because, you know, these people who manipulate and make money off of, you know, I suppose the rank and file out there, and as soon as the rank and file try and make a bit of money back at their expense, it's like, oh, shut it down, let's protect the interest of the elite. So it's interesting, but if they actually install some regulations after this to try and prevent this from happening again, it will be very interesting. But yeah, let's watch it in the social media environment unfold over the next few days. I'm sure we'll see plenty more to come.
Absolutely. So moving us on, we're going to talk Konami Restructure, and this comes from Comic Book. Following news of a corporate restructure, Konami has clarified that it will not be dissolving its gaming division. In a statement provided to IGN, a Konami representative claims that the restructure could actually help the company respond more quickly to its needs, as one potential obstacle has now been removed. The production departments will report directly to upper management, allowing them to respond quickly to the market. The representative told IGN fans that worried this might have been a final nail in the coffin for Konami's video game department can now rest a bit easier knowing this could actually prove beneficial. Fans can hardly be blamed for thinking that Konami might have been interested in leaving the gaming industry. Over the last few years, the publisher's output has significantly dropped off, with a bigger focus on ports and compilation titles versus original games. Franchises like Silent Hill and Metal Gear have remained dormant, and rumours have circulated about other developers creating games based on both. Very interesting story, and quite frankly, with the changes, and I'm sure this article is quite right. We haven't seen anything new from Konami for quite some time. I know. I think me and Tab spoke previously about they sort of postponed the next Pro Evolution to try and make it a properly next gen sort of title. So that would equate for why we haven't seen one of those. But yeah, in terms of their big franchises, we've seen nothing. There's not even any rumours of them specifically working on them. We've heard lots of rumours of other people working on them. So it sort of stands to reason with this restructure and the rumours we're getting that it would make sense for people to put one and one together, get two that they're going to outsource the development of games with just a creative input maybe, or just the publishing of the games. So it's interesting. I don't know what to make of this. I mean, I want to see more Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid. So it's hard to see if they're not going to do them in-house. Hopefully they could give the licenses to all the people, even if it is as a rental scenario. What do you make of this, Tabs? I don't know what to make of it, really.
Yeah, it's hard to say, isn't it? Because they've come out, obviously they've restructured. Is that due to COVID? Is that a change of business direction? But they've come out straight after releasing this statement to IGN, which basically says, oh, don't worry, this is actually going to give us more agility in the markets because we're removing a layer of management, presumably. But you don't know if that's a play to try and protect share value. We see it all the time, don't we? So whether they are redirecting, but yeah, we do know of games in the making, I think. And there's certainly their bread and butter in terms of games like Pro Evolution Soccer. So yeah, we're just going to have to measure it by the output we see eventually. I'm the same as you though, mate. We don't want to see Silent Hill, franchises like Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid, go to waste. And, we hope at the very least they will outsource development of those titles to, other developers. But yeah, we'll have to see. We've still got these massive rumours about Silent Hill, haven't we, bubbling under the surface, and we're kind of waiting with bated breath to see if that's true or not. But yeah, it doesn't sound great, does it? Any sort of restructure and change like this is, and we know Konami have been very quiet for a long time now on games development. So I don't know if it's...
Ultimately, to me, it sounds like a downsizing. If you're getting rid of a whole department, it sounds like you're...
Three departments, was it?
Yeah, it sounds like you're reducing, and that's never a good thing. That suggests, you have less in the pipeline, maybe you're less relevant, so you're making less games. Yeah, I don't know. I'm worried about this. I just hope that if we do see Konami maybe turn their back on gaming, they at least allow others to develop their licenses that they've got, and we'll see what happens from there. But
for all we know, mate, there might be some sort of like auction going on behind the scenes between all the big companies, and they're selling off their, the IPs that they don't really have a great interest in, like like Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill. Even though they'll sell brilliantly, they probably just don't think they've got the expertise to make them anymore. Pro Evolution Soccer, arguably, I would guess that's one they can still do, and that's a nice bread and butter for them. But
I think it's not just that. It's about having the appetite and the creative directors, etc., in house to make those kind of games. If you find out, well, actually, as a business, we don't really have those people in place anymore to make those kind of games, well, you're sort of stuck. So yeah, it's interesting. I think we're going to have to just watch this one develop, and I think there'll be lots more to come on this, not necessarily like directly related to this restructure, but certainly around Konami's big brands. I think we're going to hear a lot about them in the next 6 months.
Spot on, my friend. Take us on to everything else, which, by the way, is a solo act on this occasion, mate, because technology has failed me. So hit us with it.
Right, so we're going to start with the thorn in Konami's crown. I don't know. Basically, Kojima Productions are basically going to give us some more Death Stranding. That's what we're hearing. There's a rumor going around at the moment that basically we're going to see like an extended edition of Death Stranding. We don't know what that will entail, whether it will be and it's going to come to PS4 and PS5. Whether that will be more story, it's hard to say. We know Kojima is definitely working on something, we think, in the Death Stranding world at the moment.
You said before, haven't you, mate? We'd like it to be an extended universe sort of a game. So different story, different characters in the same universe would be ideal for us, because it felt like, as you pointed out, it came to a nice natural end with what we saw in the last game. But whether it's going to be, could it be more like a director's cut? So he's had time to polish up and add some bits into the gameplay that he couldn't do previously.
Very interestingly, we watched a video today. I assume Tabs watched it. He sent it to me, but I watched it, and the people on the video were suggesting that because of some of the supernatural aspects in the world of Death Stranding, it would be quite conceivable for Kojima to make a supernatural type, PT style game within the Death Stranding world. It would just have to be somewhere else in the world, because there's enough aspects there to be able to do that.
Spin-off.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and I thought that's really good, because some of the pieces are already in place that would allow for that. So I thought that was very interesting. But we're going to move on. Returnal has been delayed until April the 30th, citing spit and polish required to ensure that it's a top job product. We like the attitude of spit and polish and delays, although we don't like delays. Medium has mostly been well received. I think the BBC asked whether it's the best exclusive game on Xbox Series X at the moment. It currently sits at 72 on Metacritic. I'd say mixed reviews. You've heard, Tabs?
Yeah, I've seen some good ones and I've seen some bad ones, and I've seen people who say it's got redeeming qualities, but there's also some not so great parts about it. So I think, if you're a horror fan, you're probably going to get enough out of it. But if you expect it to be like the next Silent Hill or Resident Evil, or rubbing shoulders with them, probably not quite there.
Fair enough. New PlayStation Plus offerings for February will include Destruction All-Stars, Control Ultimate Edition, and Concrete Genie. I'm excited about that. Probably definitely going to download Control Ultimate Edition. We may do some multiplayer on Destruction All-Stars, Tabs.
Yeah, I think we should give it a go, mate. Me, you, and our mates. I think it looks fun, bit Rocket League-y, but with some kind of burnout elements. So, yeah, while we're all in lockdown, why not?
Absolutely. And then finally this week and everything else, we've got the Resident Evil 4 remake has apparently been delayed following the creative reboot. I know they're adding some new things in there that they're hoping to mix the game up a little bit and make it a bit different from the original. And I don't think that's quite going to plan. So apparently that could be delayed, but we've no fixed news on that. It's just rumours at the moment.
Fantastic, my friend. Well, I think probably everything to share this week. But BArcadians, as ever, please give us a shout in the comments. We We love to talk about games, not just between
Absolutely.
ourselves, but with everyone else too. And Rich, see us out.
So if you've joined us tonight on the BA News Show, definitely give us a like. It really helps the show. I stumbled a little bit there, didn't know where I was going.
He doesn't know the name of our own show, but you smash the like button anyway.
And obviously, if you're new here and you've enjoyed what you've seen, subscribe to the channel and become a BArcadian today. And make sure you click that bell to receive notifications of all our new content. We're hoping to have a good year on the channel, so look out for new content coming your way sometime soon, maybe. And yeah, I think that's all we've got time for on this week's news show. Another one for the archive.
Stamped and completed.